All right, class, what's going on? Dr. Mayo here. We are live from a coffee shop, bookstore, coffee shop here in California. I'm excited to help you through this semester. We're just finishing week one, so that's exciting. We are ramping up the class. I like to start out the class a little slower and ramp it up a little bit over time, but once we get into week 2 and 3 and beyond, it's gonna be really busy. So for anyone that's here, can you just type in the chat and let me know if you can hear and see me okay? I think you can see me okay, but I'm not sure if you can hear me. It is very busy in this coffee shop, and the bathroom is right behind me. So we'll see how things go. This could be interesting. So we just finished chapter 1 and we moved on to chapter 2. Let's just talk about where we are in the class. You finished your syllabus quiz, and so the next assignment that you have is the energy expenditure assignment, and that's coming up. But let's just talk about before we get there where we are. So you finished chapter 1, and chapter 1 was all about nutrition basics and the exercise basics. So as you watch the material, you'll see that I've got the module 1 material, chapters 1, 2, and 3 in a playlist. And then what I've also uploaded yesterday is I have uploaded all the live trainings that I did a couple of semesters ago with my students. I just through Zoom. I just turned on Zoom. We did the class live synchronously versus this class, which is asynchronous. So you should be able to find those videos in and around playlists in and around this one here. So, matter of fact, I may put this one as part of that live class. But it was just me. Now, the videos, the advantage of the other videos are that they're shorter and they're more to the point. The videos are maybe 10 minutes or less long. The ones you're going to see in the live class, that's just me going live as if we were in a classroom, and usually they're an hour, maybe a little over. So it depends on what you want to watch, and I would recommend watching both. I'm going to cover the same material, but it may be in a different way, and it's always good to hear things in a different way. So just know that. All right. With that said, Blackboard will again continue to host all the quizzes and the assignments in Blackboard. There may also be videos related to the assignments. I'm hosting those in Blackboard too. So just know that we're all on the same page here, and always reach out if you have questions. So let's talk about, what do you really need to know about the nutrition basics? Well, you've had a foundations class. So honestly, this is what I know students come in at different points, and you may have had nutrition, the foundations class early on as you're going through your semesters at UCA. But just know that this is just the Cliff Notes version as we're going through. And obviously we have our 6 nutrients, right? We have carbs, fats, proteins, vitamins, minerals, water. What do you need to know in general? Hey, it's the carbs, fats, and proteins that provide the body with energy. It's the water along with the vitamins and minerals. They don't provide the body with energy, but they help release energy and are important in all those processes that release energy using carbs, fats, and proteins. When you talk about carbohydrates, the main function of a carbohydrate is to provide the body with energy. They don't do much else. You need to understand, hey, we have the simplest version of a carbohydrate, which is a monosaccharide, and which is a glucose. There's 3 monosaccharides: glucose, galactose, and fructose. And with those, mainly everything's going to be broken down to glucose eventually. And when you put 2 of these monosaccharides together, you get a disaccharide, and we call the monos and the disaccharides simple sugar. So when you hear people talking about, hey, limit your sugar, limit your, you're really talking about either the simple monosaccharides or the disaccharides. The difference between a simple sugar and a complex carbohydrate is just that there are more bonds to be broken down. And you can watch all this in the trainings, but just understand the difference between a simple sugar and a complex carbohydrate. All right. It really does depend. And in most cases, with the foods that we eat, like even the complex variety, you're going to get some complex carbohydrate and there's going to be some simple sugar in there as well. But we want to try to limit that unless, and we'll get to this in the next module, in and around exercise is when you can get away with having some of that simple sugar and be okay with it. Usually what happens is with this simple sugar, we just take in too much through our day, and it leads to weight gain. It leads to a lot of other diabetes and a bunch of other things. All right. So carbohydrate, protein, again, just understand that protein is important. Its job is, like, unlike carbohydrate, whose only job is to provide the body with energy. Protein's job is to build and repair and maintain tissue. It's not to provide energy. Could it? It could if it has to, but that's not its main function. All right, so be aware of that. Understand what sources, along with the carbohydrate. With protein, understand the sources and where we get protein in the foods, and it may surprise you that in a variety of different foods, even some vegetables, even your grains, you're going to get some protein. But obviously we get most of it in a higher amount in like our meat and beans and those types of things. So again, understand the function, understand the importance of protein and all these nutrients, but then also understand the foods that might contain some of these, all right, and in what amounts. And I do this in the lesson, so you should be able to get that. And always remember too, another important aspect of this is understanding the percentages, what's recommended, right? You're going to get this on multiple tests. What percentage of calories should be coming from carbohydrate? 45 to 65%. What percentage of calories should be coming from protein? 10 to 35%. Okay, so, and then fat is 20 to 35%. And when we look at fat, understand the importance of fat and the functions. We tend to think that fat's bad and we demonize it because it ends up having more calories, which is another piece to this, right? You get 4 calories per gram for carbs and protein, but with fat, you get 9 calories per gram. And because of that, people think that fat's bad for you, and that's not the case at all. Fat serves a lot of important roles and plays a lot of important roles, and you can watch the video on that. But understand the nutrition basics around carbs, fats, and proteins. And then we get into water. And then vitamins and minerals. When we look at water, understand the functions of water, understand, what's the baseline needs that we, for individuals, how much do we need? And usually what we say is 10 to 13 cups. When we get later into the hydration and water chapter, we'll talk about how to calculate your specific needs, because it may be that you need on the lower end of the 10 cups, or maybe you even need 8 cups or 7 cups, or if you're bigger, you're probably going to need more. You might need more than 14 or 13 cups. You may need 14 or 15, but most textbooks will say 10 to 13 cups. We'll show you how to calculate that as we get later into the semester. And then vitamins and minerals. Again, just understand you don't have to memorize all the vitamins and all the minerals, but you should know the classifications, right? So with vitamins, we have fat soluble and we have water soluble vitamins. So just know what those are. And you don't have to know all the functions of each one. But later in the semester, we'll talk about which ones athletes tend to be deficient in, where their needs need to be higher in, and we'll do that. But for now, just understand the basics. And, we look at minerals, we have trace and major. Just understand the definitions around those. Trace minerals, basically the needs are less than 100 milligrams. And for major minerals, you need more than 100 milligrams. And all of these minerals are important. again, know the function of minerals in general. Usually minerals become part of the body. Like one of the biggest contributors, right, to bone is calcium. And calcium it's a major mineral, right? We talk about phosphorus. We talk about sodium, potassium, which are huge minerals that are important for us. So just know the basics around that, and then we get into talking about exercise, and this is always a fun one. And I think I started with this on our first call, that a lot of the exercise science students, they'll know and understand exercise, but they don't understand the nutrition piece. And for my nutrition students, it's just the opposite, right? They understand the nutrition, but they don't understand exercise. So I think I do a really good job, because that's kind of my background in understanding exercise. And so with that, understanding what's the difference between exercise and physical activity. What are the health-related components of fitness, and understanding each one of those. Understanding the ACSM guidelines and American Heart Association guidelines around exercise, where we're supposed to accumulate 30 minutes a day of moderate intensity activity 5 days a week. And you can go back and watch the videos on that. Then understand the general basic training principles, exercise training principles. What is specificity? What is overload? What is progression? What is periodization? Right? Just understand those concepts. What is disuse? Principle of disuse or reversibility. It's kind of the same thing. Other exercise principles. Those are the big ones. And then chapter 2 really focuses on energy expenditure. When we talk about energy expenditure in this chapter, we look at, what's the definition of energy? We talk about energy balance, and energy balance is important because, we have calories that are coming in and we have calories that are going out. And calories in, and I usually ask this on a in-person quiz, right? In class, list for me the ways we get calories in. Well, it's from the food we eat, and it's from our drinks that have calories in them. Like right now, I'm drinking my coffee. My coffee has, I put cream in my coffee. So there's going to be calories in there. And sometimes I put too much cream in my coffee. And that's going to add calories. And do I need those extra calories? I probably don't, but I like it the way it makes my coffee taste. So I'm going to stick with the cream. But that's an example. And then calories out are important, because when we talk about total energy expenditure, this is how we get our and do our energy expenditure calculations, right? You've got metabolic rate, you've got physical activity, and then you've got the thermal effect of food. Understand what those are. Understand that metabolic rate is the highest. It gives 60 to 70% of your total energy that you expend comes from metabolic rate. Physical activity is important, and usually what we do and what you'll do in your calculations is you'll use an activity factor, but activity is the component of the 3 components of total energy expenditure. It's the one that can be manipulated the most. It's hard to change your metabolic rate. That's why individuals want to gain muscle, right? Because they want to burn more calories at rest. But physical activity is probably the one that can be manipulated the most, because if I go out and exercise, let's say I run 10 miles today, well, then that's going to really dramatically increase my energy that I'm expending. And then you've got thermal effect of food, which is the energy that's required to digest the food that you eat. And it's really small. And in the calculations, you'll see we usually use 10% or 0.1%, and we multiply that 0.1, that 10%, times your metabolic rate, and we add that into the total. And that's how most dietitians do it. And some dietitians don't even use thermal effect of food because it is really small. It'll usually be 100, 200 calories or something. All right. What else? So I got a question around the energy expenditure assignment, and let me address that real quickly. Is that when you do these calculations, you probably will not get the same exact number that I did in these, because it really does depend on what activity factor you give them It depends on what equation you use. I recommend, and I have you do this, right? You're using Harris-Benedict and using Cunningham. And remember, to use the Cunningham equation, you have to know their percent body fat, because the equation wants you to determine their fat-free mass. And if you're unfamiliar with that, then just know, hey, if I'm, 20% fat, that means I'm 80% fat-free. So you would take their body weight times 0.8 to get their fat-free mass. But I think I go through all of that in the assignment video. So check that out if you have questions. But just know that you will not get the same number as I do. All right. With that, the assignment, the energy expenditure assignment, is due at midnight on Sunday. And remember, don't be late on that. This thing will close, and get that in by midnight Central Standard Time. And then what will happen next week is we will start chapter 3. We will go through the energy systems chapter, and I will probably do another call just to make sure we're all on the same page. And then we'll take our test. And I can't remember. Let me look real quick. I think I had this pulled up. The test, I think, is going to be on Friday. Right? I think it maybe opens on Thursday and then closes on Friday at midnight. So just know that your quizzes for the chapters will be due on Thursday, and we'll talk about all this next week. I know it's the weekend, and so you probably got other things on your agenda, but I just wanted to come support you here. And again, I don't see any questions in the chat, so I'm going to go ahead and end it. And thanks. So looks like the bookstore worked out okay. It's just loud. There are a lot of people here. There are kids screaming and carrying on. But just know that I'm here to help you, and don't feel like you're having to do this alone. All right? Take care. Have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye.